It was a few weeks ago. I had just moved to Asheville. Autumn was creeping in. I thought a hike in the Blue Ridge Mountains would help me clear my head after my breakup. I figured the fresh air would do me good. I was wrong. As soon as I hit the trail, the cool breeze brushed against my skin. The leaves were vibrant, all reds and golds. Everything looked beautiful, but I felt something off. It started as a whisper in the wind. I thought I heard my name. I shook it off, just a trick of the mind, I told myself. I kept hiking until I saw an old, rusted signpost. It pointed to a trail I didn't recognize. Curiosity tugged at me. That's when I felt that strange urge to explore. The path was overgrown, but I stepped in anyway. It felt like I was crossing into a different world. Then I saw a backpack on the ground. It was worn and dusty, like it hadn't been touched in years. I should have turned back, but I pressed on. The air became heavy. The silence wrapped around me like a blanket, and I started to feel those eyes watching me from the trees. I quickened my pace, hoping to shake off the feeling. Then I heard it. Laughter. Children's laughter echoed through the trees, clear and cheerful. I stopped abruptly. What? I whispered, scanning the woods. There was no one around. I felt a chill run down my spine. I picked up my pace again, eager to get away. I moved deeper into the woods, but it only got worse. I found remnants of old foundations, half buried in the ground. They looked like they belonged to long-forgotten homes. Unease settled over me. I felt completely alone. My heart started racing. Where was I? Why didn't anyone talk about this place? As I turned to leave, the whispers returned, louder this time, calling me back. I fought the urge and sprinted away. The laughter chased me down the trail, and I felt the weight of something following me. I glanced back but saw nothing. Just trees swaying in the wind. The laughter grew closer. Panic took over. What do you want? I screamed into the empty woods. It all went silent, so silent that I felt my heartbeat in my ears. Then, I heard it. A voice, soft and distant, calling my name. Tom. It felt chilled and alive, right before everything turned to black. I still don't know what happened that day. Did I really hear that voice? Was it real? I haven't been able to shake the feeling that something was out there, waiting for me to come back. I woke up on the forest floor. The sunlight peeked through the branches, casting strange shadows around me. My head throbbed. I sat up slowly, the weight of what had happened crashing over me. What was real? Were the whispers just a figment of my imagination, or had I actually heard someone calling me? I shook off the dizziness and stood. The backpack was still there, untouched. I felt a pull toward it, as though it held answers I desperately needed. I unzipped it cautiously, my heart racing. Inside, I found old photographs: a child in a faded yellow dress, a group of kids playing near a creek, their laughter frozen in time. A shiver ran down my spine. The laughter echoed in my ears once more. I quickly closed the backpack and stepped back, glancing around to make sure I was alone. I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. I turned to retrace my steps back to the trail. The path home seemed long and twisted. As I walked, the trees whispered again, but this time it felt different. There was urgency in their rustling. I pushed through the underbrush, my breath coming in quick bursts. Suddenly, I stumbled upon something unexpected, a broken swing set, entwined with vines. It loomed like a ghost of past childhood joy, now eerie and abandoned. I froze. Was this one of the forgotten remnants? My heart raced as I remembered the children in the photographs. Something told me to leave, to run. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned around slowly, but there was nothing but the whispering leaves. Then I noticed a figure flitting between the trees, just out of reach. I couldn't make out any details, but the presence felt close, creeping around me like a shadow. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. Silence answered. Panic gnawed at me, but I pushed forward, the urge to escape overpowering. As I reached the edge of the trees, I heard giggling again. It was playful, carefree, contrasting sharply with the dread curling in my stomach. I glanced back one last time. The figure stood there, just for a second, watching me. It vanished before I could fully comprehend what I saw. I burst into a clearing, my lungs burning. A large stone stood in the center, weathered with age, covered in strange markings. I couldn't read them, but they felt significant, like a warning. The laughter echoed again, but now it sounded closer, more urgent. "Tom." I heard the voice again, unmistakable, chilling me to the bone. I took a step back, realizing I was not alone. I wanted to scream, but instead, I took off in the opposite direction. This time I sprinted through the woods, the branches whipping against my skin. I had to get back, but where was the main trail? Or more importantly, who had called my name? I burst into a small clearing. Panic swelled inside me. The whispers morphed into a cacophony, laughing and calling, swirling around me. I flung my arms in front of my face and stumbled forward. That's when I saw it, a reflection in the stone. And then everything went dark again. I gasped as light suddenly flooded back into my vision. Instinctively, I raised my hands to shield my eyes, now flooded with light. When I blinked away the spots, I was back in the clearing. The swing set loomed closer, and the laughter had faded. But I was not alone. The figure was here again. Just a silhouette in the distance, wavering like smoke in the air. "Please," I whispered, stepping cautiously toward it. I wanted to understand. I needed to know if it was real. "Who are you?" The figure paused, then retreated deeper into the trees. My heart raced again, torn between fear and curiosity. I wanted to run, to escape whatever this was, but my legs refused to move. Instead, I took a tentative step forward, following the shadow into the depths of the wood. The ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. Each step brought a new sound, twigs cracking, leaves rustling, and then something soft and slippery, like moss. The shadows thickened around me, swallowing the light and plunging me into twilight. "Tom." The voice echoed again, closer now, clearer. It felt both familiar and foreign. I turned, scanning the trees, but the figure was gone, leaving a void that hummed with tension. I wondered if I was losing my mind, or if something more sinister was at play. As I pushed deeper into the woods, I stumbled upon a small wooden cabin. It appeared abandoned, its walls covered in vines, windows dark and lifeless. I approached slowly, my heart pounding, not sure if this was a sanctuary or a trap. The door creaked when I touched it, and I hesitated, listening for any sign of life inside. The whispers began anew, circling around me, a cacophony of giggles and calling voices. It was so disorienting, I almost missed the faint sound of something other than laughter. A faint thumping came from inside the cabin, like footsteps shuffling on the floor. "Hello?" My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "Is anyone there?" The thumping stopped. Silence followed, thick and foreboding. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. It creaked and groaned, the sound echoing in the quiet. Inside, shadows danced along the walls. I squinted, trying to make out shapes. There were old toys scattered on the floor, dusty and forgotten, a forgotten toy truck, a tattered teddy bear, remnants of childhood dreams. A chill ran through me when I recognized a yellow dress hanging from a nail on the wall, just like the one in the photograph. That's when I saw it. A pair of eyes peering at me from the dark corner of the cabin. They glimmered like embers, fixed on me with unsettling intensity. I backed away, heart racing, but the whispers turned into a roar, and something pushed past me. "Tom!" It called again, the voice now sharp and demanding. I turned to flee, but the door slammed shut behind me. Trapped. I backed into a wall, my breath hitching. Whatever was in this cabin was not of this world. The laughter surged again, drowning out my fear and my thoughts. Then, as quickly as it had started, everything fell silent. I held my breath, afraid to make a sound. Someone or something was in this cabin with me, and I was about to find out what it wanted. The silence felt heavy as I pressed my back against the wall. The darkness of the cabin closed in around me. I could hardly move, too stunned to know what to do next. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I stared at the ember-like eyes. "Tom," they hissed again, sharper this time. The voice had lost its childish timbre and now sounded more like a command. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice quaking. "What do you want?" No answer came. Instead, the eyes began to shift, a blur of movement as a figure stepped out from the corner. It was a girl, her hair wild and tangled, her skin pale as the moonlight. The yellow dress she wore was similar to the one hanging on the wall. "Help me," she whispered, her gaze locked onto mine. "You have to help me." "Help you? With what?" I faltered, confusion mixing with fear. "Find them." She pointed a thin, bony finger toward a door at the back of the cabin that I hadn't noticed before. It looked just as old and weathered as the rest of the building. "They took them." "Who?" I asked, feeling like I was in over my head. My instincts were screaming at me to run, but something deep inside urged me to stay. "Just go," she cried suddenly, her voice rising in pitch. "You have to find them before it's too late." The whispers returned, louder and more chaotic this time. I couldn't make sense of the words, they twisted and turned like the shadows dancing around me. I was frozen, caught between fear and the pull of her desperation. "Please," she pleaded. "I can't do it alone." My decision hung in the air, a fragile thread that could snap at any moment. I glanced at the door she indicated. It was the only way forward, the only way to uncover the truth. But what if I was stepping into something worse? "All right," I said, feigning confidence. "I'll help, just tell me what to do." The girl's eyes softened, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a glimmer of hope mixed with her fear. Dark memories twisted her features as she took a step toward the door. "It's behind this door. Whatever you find, don't be afraid. You'll need to be brave." Before I could backtrack or second-guess myself, she pulled the door open. A rush of stale air washed over me, thick and oppressive. I peered into the darkness beyond, the lightning flash of images swirling in my mind, of what lay ahead. Then, with determination or perhaps desperation, I stepped into the unknown. The door creaked and groaned as it shut behind me, and the laughter echoed again, vibrating against the walls. Something was waiting for me in the dark, and I was about to find out exactly what it was. The moment I crossed the threshold, the air shifted. It was colder, and the darkness seemed thicker. I squinted, trying to make out my surroundings. The faint outlines of wooden beams framed the space, but it felt ancient. Uninhabited. "Where are you?" I called out, hoping foolishly for a response. The girl hadn't followed me in, and I was alone now, swallowed by the shadows. I took a cautious step forward. My foot landed on something soft and damp, squelching beneath my weight. I leaned down and brushed my fingertips along the ground. It felt like moss. But it didn't smell like earth, it had a musty, metallic scent that made my stomach turn. "Focus, Tom," I muttered to myself. I needed to find whatever it was she wanted me to uncover. Ahead, a dim light flickered. I hesitated. It felt like a beacon, but it also felt like a trap. What if I wasn't meant to be here? But the idea of going back was just as frightening as moving forward. I took a deep breath and crept toward the light. As I got closer, I saw it was coming from an old lantern resting on a table. The glass was cracked, and the flame danced wildly, casting eerie shadows. I scanned the surroundings. The walls were lined with old photographs, their faces obscured by dust and time. My heart raced as I recognized one of them. It was a familiar face from the cabin's wall. Why was there a photograph of the girl in the yellow dress? I reached out to touch it, and the sensation of cold metal sent a shiver through me. Just then, a loud bang echoed in the darkness, startling me. I spun around, my breath hitching. There was something in that sound, something sinister and angry. "Please don't." The girl's voice, now a soft whisper, floated into my ear, sending chills down my spine. "You have to be quiet. If they hear you, who?" I asked, panic creeping in. "Who will hear me?" Before I could receive an answer, the lantern flickered and went out, plunging me into complete darkness. I felt my heart pounding, each thud accentuating the silence around me. The sounds of my breathing made it worse, as if I was drawing attention to myself. What had I gotten myself into? I fumbled for my phone, considering lighting it up, but instinct made me hesitate. If she wanted me to be quiet, maybe a bright light would attract whatever was lurking around. Suddenly, a series of soft footsteps echoed in the distance, drawing closer. They were slow and deliberate, like someone was savoring my fear. My instincts kicked in, and I pressed my back against the wall, hoping to blend into the shadows. Then, amidst the silence, I heard something else, a soft giggle. It was high-pitched, and it sent shivers racing down my spine. But it wasn't just laughter, there was malice to it, a bitter undertone that made my skin crawl. Eager to escape, I turned in the other direction, hoping to find another exit, but all I found was more darkness. I took a deep breath to steady myself and felt something brush against my arm. That's when I saw it. A small, pale hand reaching through the darkness, fingers curling toward me slowly. The giggling grew louder, and a feeling of dread washed over me. I was not alone, and whatever was in the dark was coming for me. I froze, my body rigid with fear. The tiny hand hovered just inches away, delicate yet threatening, as if it belonged to something that shouldn't exist. The giggling echoed, wrapping around my mind, taunting me. I had to move. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I pushed off the wall and stumbled backward, tripping over something on the ground. I fell hard, the mossy floor giving way beneath me with a soft squish. My phone slipped from my pocket, clattering against the damp earth. I reached for it, desperate for light. Just as a beam illuminated the space, I felt an icy presence behind me. I spun around, pointing the light toward the source of the laughter. My heart sank. The girl sat on the floor, her yellow dress somehow unblemished, her eyes wide, reflecting an unnatural gleam. "Tom!" she gasped, her voice a mix of excitement and warning. "You shouldn't have moved like that." "Why? What's wrong?" I snapped, panic slipping out. The last thing I wanted was for whatever was lurking to take notice of me. "Trust me. Just be quiet." Her tone shifted, and I could see the fear in her expression. Before I could respond, the darkness beyond the light shifted. Figures appeared, hunched and twisted, barely visible, shuffling closer. Their outlines were distorted, skirting the edges of my vision. They watched me with hollow eyes, hungry and curious. "Who are they?" I whispered, backing away slowly. The girl shook her head, her voice now trembling. "You have to be still. If they know you're here." A feeling of dread crushed me. I didn't want to be still. I wanted to run. But my legs felt heavy, as if rooting me to this strange place. The figures crept closer, the giggles punctuated by harsh whispers that blended into the night air. "Help me," one of them hissed. I recoiled, flooding the room with more light. The figure stepped forward, revealing a gaunt face, skin pale and stretched tight against a skull. My stomach churned, and I could hardly breathe. "It's not safe here, Tom," the girl pleaded. "You don't understand." I felt trapped, my pulse pounding as those hollow eyes bore into me. "What do you mean? What do you want?" "Not you," she said urgently, "but it sees you. You have to go." Suddenly, another bang rang out, louder this time, shaking the wooden beams above us. The figures flinched, growing agitated, their whispers rising to an unsettling crescendo. I had to act. I turned and raced blindly toward the back of the room, my phone lighting the way. The girl called after me, but I didn't dare look back. The figures were right behind me, their giggles morphing into howls of anger. I slammed into a wall, heart racing, panic taking control. Then I heard her voice again, a clarion amidst the chaos, "The door." There was a door. I hadn't noticed it before, tucked away in the shadows. I sprinted toward it, praying it wasn't locked. My fingers fumbled on the handle, and I yanked it open just as the laughter erupted behind me. As I crossed the threshold, the world outside felt starkly different, brighter, fresher. But then I heard the whispers again, drifting from the darkened doorway, promising that whatever was inside wasn't finished with me yet. I stood trembling on the other side, fear clawing at my insides. The sun was setting, but I could feel the weight of eyes on me, the shadows deepening around the cabin. I was free, but not safe, and whatever I had escaped would surely follow. I stumbled away from the cabin, still catching my breath. Panic coursed through my veins. I had made it out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the figures were just behind me, lurking in the growing darkness. The laughter echoed in my ears, mingling with the rustling leaves. I needed to find a way to get back to my car and away from this nightmare. I glanced around the clearing, the trees looming above me like silent sentinels. I had no idea which direction to go. I turned, hoping to catch a glimpse of the path I had taken earlier, but the shadows were thickening, distorting everything around me. My heart raced again, and I felt small, lost in an endless forest. Then, as if answering my desperate need for direction, I saw a faint glow in the distance. It flickered like a candle's flame, a welcome beacon in the encroaching darkness. I took a cautious step toward it, heart pounding, and started to jog. I felt a desperate hope rising within me. Maybe there was someone there who could help. As I drew closer, however, the air grew colder, sending chills down my spine. The laughter, now faint and ghostly, wrapped around me like a shroud. I hesitated. Should I keep moving toward the light? My instincts screamed to run away, but curiosity tugged at me too. After everything I'd seen, I wanted answers. I reached the edge of the clearing and found a small, fire-lit campsite. A couple sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows. Relief washed over me at the sight of normalcy. They looked up as I emerged from the trees, confusion painted on their faces. "Hey! You okay?" the man asked, concern etched in his voice. I opened my mouth to speak but couldn't find the words. Instead, I just nodded, still feeling the remnants of fear clinging to me. They motioned for me to sit down, and I hesitated again, glancing back at the dark mass of trees. The light from the fire felt like a fragile barrier against whatever lurked behind me. "Can I help?" the woman asked. Her eyes were kind, but there was a flicker of worry behind her smile. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I was just in that cabin," I blurted out. "There's something wrong there, figures moving in the dark, laughter, I don't know what is going on." The couple exchanged glances. "That cabin is supposed to be abandoned," the man said, slowly. "Strange things have happened around here for years. People have gone missing suddenly." The flames of the fire flickered violently. A heavy breeze swept through the clearing, extinguishing half the fire. My heart jumped as I caught movement in the trees. A figure slipped behind the trunk of a nearby oak. It was one of them. "Did you see that?" I gasped. What? They asked, urgency creeping into their voices. I pointed, but the figure was gone. The darkness seemed to swell, tightening around us, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. Get the flashlight. The woman shouted, her voice trembling. We need to see what's out there. Before I could process her words, everything went dark. The fire was completely out. An enveloping silence settled in, broken only by distant giggles that danced through the night. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. Just moments ago, I had hoped for safety, and now, darkness had swallowed us whole. I could barely make out the shapes of the couple beside me, but the eeriness of the situation pressed down like a heavy fog. Where's the flashlight? I whispered, my voice shaking. The crackle of the fire was gone, and the only sound now was that faint, haunting laughter. It echoed and mingled with the rustle of leaves, wrapping around us like a chilling melody. I had it right here. The man stammered, fumbling through his backpack. I swear I turned it on before the fire went out. His anxiety was palpable, and as the silence stretched, I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Suddenly, I heard a soft crunching sound nearby like footsteps on dry leaves. My eyes darted toward the trees, straining against the impenetrable blackness. Did you hear that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, the woman replied, her tone a mixture of fear and determination. Stay close. As we huddled together, the man finally found the flashlight. Here. He clicked it on, and a beam of light shot into the shadows. I squinted, trying to make sense of the swirling darkness. The beam danced wildly as he swept it across the clearing. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers. And then I saw it, a fleeting silhouette darting between the trunks, just beyond the reach of the light. My heart hammered in my chest. Can you see anything? The man asked, his voice cracking. Something moved. I shouted, pointing in the direction I'd seen the figure. Over there. But just as he swung the flashlight back, there was nothing, only trees and darkness, mocking us. I half wondered if it was just my imagination, and that thought made me feel sick. We were losing grip on reality here. I think we should leave, I urged, stifling the rising panic. We need to get to the road and find help. No one comes out this way after dark, especially not with whatever is out there, the woman said, her eyes wide. I don't care. If we stay here, we're sitting ducks, I insisted. We have to go. Just then, a burst of laughter erupted from the trees again, taunting and sinister. My breath hitched. It was closer this time, echoing as if the figures were playing a game, circling us. The man took a deep breath, gripping the flashlight. All right, let us move. Stay close, and if anything happens. He didn't finish his sentence. He glanced over my shoulder, eyes widening in horror. I turned around, and my blood chilled as I saw shapes materializing from the darkness, faces partially hidden, eyes glittering like shards of glass. Run! He yelled, and I didn't hesitate. We bolted towards the path that led away from the campsite, the laughter ringing out behind us like an ominous bell. As I sprinted forward, stumbling over roots and rocks, fear propelled me faster. And then, just as we burst onto an old dirt path, I saw a figure standing in our way, a child. Help us, the child whispered, and in that moment, everything froze. The laughter stopped, and I was left wondering if this was another trap. I hesitated, caught between instinct and compassion. The child appeared too fragile, standing alone in the dark. My heart raced not just from fear but from an overwhelming sense of dread. What are you doing here? I managed to ask, keeping an eye on the looming shadows behind us. Help us, the child repeated, voice barely above a whisper, but something felt off. The words dripped with urgency, yet the way the child stood there, unmoving, sent chills down my spine. Behind me, I heard the couple catch their breath, uncertainty painting their faces. "We can't trust this," the woman said, her voice trembling. "What if it's a trick?" But the child's eyes held a strange shine, almost hypnotic. "They're coming," they said simply, and before I could respond, the laughter echoed again, this time louder and closer. I felt the pull of panic rising in my throat. Without thinking, I took a step back. "We need to go. Now!" I shouted, urging the others to move past the child. But as I turned to run, I could feel the child's gaze follows me, piercing and unsettling. "Your light can't save you," the child called out. I froze. The nonchalance of the voice felt like an ominous premonition. I quickly shook it off. There was no time for hesitation. We pushed forward, the crunch of leaves and twigs underfoot blending with the distant laughter. My mind raced as we stumbled deeper into the woods. The flashlight beam quivered, illuminating the treetops but revealing nothing of what hunted us. I could sense the weight of fear pressing down, a thick blanket that stifled my rational thoughts. We had momentarily escaped the shadows, but were we outrunning true danger? I glanced back, half expecting to see the child following, but there was nothing. The path behind us lay empty and silent. "Do you think it's gone?" I asked, my voice shaky as I tried to catch my breath. "I don't know," the man replied, his face pale and eyes darting. "But we can't stop to find out." Suddenly, a loud crash broke through the murky silence, a branch snapping under a heavy weight somewhere to our left. We all froze. "There's something over there," I whispered, pointing just as the beam of light flickered toward the sound. It caught something, two gleaming eyes staring back at us from the underbrush. Without warning, the creature lunged forward, what looked like a twisted dog with matted fur and sharp teeth. It growled, a low menacing growl that vibrated through my bones. "Run!" The woman screamed, and we took off again, hearts pounding. But I could feel the brush of air against my neck as the beast chased us, its hot breath a reminder of how close it truly was. As we fled, the world around us morphed into a nightmarish blur of shadows and fear, and I realized in horror that we were not just running from whatever had filled the woods with laughter. We were running towards something else entirely, a dark truth lurking deeper in the forest. With every step, I could hear the children's voice repeating in my mind, "They're coming." But who were they? And what did they want with us? The questions spiraled as the darkness around me thickened, and I realized that our escape may be only the beginning of something much worse. I stumbled along the twisted path, desperation fueling my lungs as I gasped for air. The laughter that had once echoed around me faded into a haunting lullaby, but I could still feel the sinister presence lurking nearby. I glanced back, half expecting to see the monstrous dark figures pursuing us, but only shadows danced on the edges of the wood. The faint glow of the campsite was fading from view as my companions pressed on, forging ahead without looking back. "Keep moving," the woman hissed, panic lacing her voice. "We can't let it catch us." But how could we escape something we couldn't even see? Was it truly behind us, or was it merely a trick of the mind, a fear manifesting in the darkness? My heart throbbed with uncertainty, and the grip of terror wrapped tighter around my throat. We dashed through the labyrinth of trees until the ground beneath us sloped downward. I skidded to a halt, arms flailing as I tried to steady myself against a mossy boulder. The man and woman barely managed to avoid crashing into me. "Which way?" I stammered, glancing back toward the path where we'd come. It felt as though the forest conspired against us, as if it were shifting and twisting, obscuring our way out. The heaviness of silence pressed down, even the soft rustle of the leaves had disappeared. "Over here," the man said, finally taking charge. He pointed to a narrow opening between the trees, its entrance shrouded in shadows. "We don't have much choice." Without waiting for agreement, he jogged forward, with us trailing closely behind. As we moved deeper into the woods, I could feel a strange energy enveloping us, like static in the air. The darkness thickened, and it began to swirl, almost like a smoke, charging the atmosphere with a cacophony of whispers. They called to me, begging to be understood. Don't listen to them. The woman cried out, her eyes frantic. It'll try to pull you in. But some maddening part of me was drawn to their pleas, the voices intertwining with memories I couldn't place. I shook my head, willing myself to focus. The need to escape overwhelmed me, and the flickering light of the lantern lay faintly ahead, just out of reach. Is that the stream? I suddenly heard myself say, pointing toward a dim outline on the ground, water trickling over stones. A ghostly glow illuminated the trail just beyond it, beckoning us forward. If we can reach the water, we might be safe. Holding on to that thread of hope, we rushed toward it. The babbling water flowed with an inviting warmth, and for a moment, my fear receded like the laughter fading into the distance. I knelt down, splashing my face, trying to cleanse myself of the dread that clung to me. But less than a second later, the world shifted again. The air grew still, and from somewhere behind us, laughter erupted anew, echoing hauntingly against the trees. My heartbeat quickened as the figures emerged from the shadows back in the woods, closing in on us. Keep moving. I shouted, the adrenaline firing through my veins, and we stumbled back onto our feet. But the water suddenly turned murky beneath my feet, and I noticed a swirling mist rise from its surface, pulling at my legs as if it wanted to drown me in its depths. The child's eyes pierced my mind again, whispering for help. But something twisted in my gut, and I turned to face the others. We have to get away from the stream. It's not safe here. The ground trembled as we dashed away, water splashing behind us. We hit a rise, our legs burning, until I felt the warmth of the lantern beside us, its flickering light offering a distraction. In its glow, I saw faces of other children in the trees gleaming with an unsettling joy, echoing that laughter, their expression one of hope strewn alongside cunning. I glanced at the couple beside me. What do those kids want? I breathed, unable to shake the feeling that they were somehow leading us into this nightmare. I don't know, the woman said, eyes wide. It can't be good. The laughter rippled through the air again, high-pitched and urgent. Save us. They called, a chant rising above the chaos. We pressed on, adrenaline throbbing in our veins, the world narrowing to the confines of our panic. The path wound down further, twisting again out of the lantern's light until it opened into a broader clearing. Amid the trees, a dilapidated stone structure loomed, a crumbling well. The children's laughter turned sinister, echoing around us like a predator's call. Help! They begged once more, their figures shifting and fading like whispers carried off by the wind. We can't. I gasped, heart racing, unwilling to reach for the darkness that seemed to lurk in the well. We have to find a way back to the road. But just as I turned, everything fell silent. The air thickened. The shadows around us condensed, swirling like a vortex. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, and then the shadows poured out from every direction. In one final surge of desperation, I flung myself toward the well's edge, intending to find refuge. My pulse raced in harmony with the laughter that swirled around. Then I felt hands fractured and cold grabbing at me from the end of the stone lip. Tom! The girl's voice erupted in my ears, the sound familiar yet foreign. She was with me now, staring wide-eyed from the depths below. Help us! I wasn't sure what I was seeing. There were other faces, specters hovering within the darkness behind the well-frozen children who had once played here. I can't, I whispered, terrified of what I might unleash by reaching for them. The laughter erupted again, twisting and turning like echoes among the trees, drowning out my thoughts. I turned away, scrambling up the other side of the well, shoving my way through the encroaching dusk. Just outside the clearing's border, I glanced back one last time. The figures stared, their laughs morphing into desperate cries, hovering on the edge of understanding. I didn't want to see what awaited me if I lingered. How long do we have? The woman urged, her voice hoarse as she caught up. I don't know, I panted, glancing at the dark entrance of the forest. But we need to move now. With a push, we burst into the wild again, racing toward vague memories of safety. I didn't know if we'd ever escape those shadows or fully understand what they wanted. But something was clear, part of that darkness would always persist in the corners of my mind, the laughter echoing beneath every hush of the wind. And endlessly, I would question, was any of this real, or had I merely succumbed to the wild chaos encroaching around us? I left the forest behind, but I knew I didn't leave the forest behind me. It lingered still, hiding its secrets just out of reach, waiting for another to wander back into its depths. Even then, the child's eyes haunted me, and I wondered if I'd ever find the courage to confront that well in the shadows, or if I would remain forever lost in laughter I could never fully escape.